We're live. What's up, guys? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Deck Talk Podcast, and we've got one that is going to be a blast tonight. Norman and I've been waiting to where our schedules can match up to be able to get our guest on, and we finally made it happen. She's actually getting ready. She's in Kentucky, but other than that, guys, if you do not know, I'm Colin Burnett.
That's right, Colin, and I'm Norman Lee, and that's right, Colin. We have one heck of a show tonight. We are excited, really excited about talking to this angler tonight. But like always, we have some business to take care of first. With tonight's sponsor for tonight's episode is Proline Baits. That's right, guys. Family owned and operated. They strive to produce the highest quality scents using the finest quality ingredients to guarantee anglers to catch more fish, whether you're in a boat or fishing from the bank. Now you can match the hatch as well. With scents covering a wide range of species. Proline Baits produces the highest quality attractants using an all-natural extract designed with the most advanced technology and scent capabilities, not only releasing a full, robust scent, but delivering an unmatched taste to any fish. Proline Baits, a new generation of attractants for the avid fisherman to help you catch more fish. See what this stink is all about. Go to www.prolinebaits.com, and don't forget, make sure to use our discount code DECKTALK10. Again, that's prolinebaits.com. Don't forget, use our discount code DECKTALK10 for that instant savings at checkout. Guys, all right, we have one heck of a guest tonight, as Colin was mentioning a seconds ago. But anyway, we're going to get right into this, introducing her. Our guest tonight is a professional angler who really needs no introduction in the fishing community. She is the host of the multi-award-winning podcast, Woman Angler Adventure Podcast. She is a competitor on the LBAA Women's Bass Pro Tour and an experienced USCG licensed Marine captain, a fellow iBass 360 teammate, and inspiration to young ladies all across the globe who have that dream of becoming a professional bass angler. And we are proud to have her join us tonight as our guest. She is the epitome of what living the passion really means. Angie Scott.
Welcome, Angie. Welcome.
What is going on,
Hey,
Angie?
hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, like Colin said, up here in Kentucky, and we're hoping to have Wi-Fi and everything, and get to the house. And I just found out somebody cut the line, so it's supposed to be, I think, back online in about an hour. But so we're doing this from the phone. Hopefully, everything will go good. So
Yeah.
thanks for having me.
Anytime, Angie. Anytime.
Yep.
So I've got quite a few things that I want to talk to you about. One, I want to say thank you before we really get started. I want to say thank you to you for helping us be able to get the podcast set up, because I know I blew your phone up a lot when trying to figure out what programs and stuff like that. So, so Angie, thank you so much for helping us out with that.
Absolutely. I think it was the guys at iBass that connected us, if I recall.
Yeah. Rob and Eric connected us, and we really picked your brain, and you were more than gracious to, kind of steer us in the right direction. So yes, just like Colin said, exactly. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts, because, you have a little part of, what we're doing today. So thank you.
Yeah. So
glad to help.
So, Angie, I know you live in the Nashville area, but you are not a Nashville native. You are from Minnesota, if I'm correct, if I remember you telling me, because I was giving you a hard time about being a Yankee. And so,
That's right.
But So how, like growing up, did you grow up in Minnesota fishing, or was it something that you kind of got into later on in life?
Nope. Grew up fishing. Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes. My dad had a little aluminum craft fishing boat with a 40-horse Johnson motor, and still has that same boat to this day. He's done some updates to it over the years, but same motor. And but anyway, we would go out as a family. My mom, dad, brother. My brother, he's 6 years older than me, and myself. And didn't really love it when I was a little kid. I'd get bored, and if we weren't catching fish and whatnot. Um, but as I got older and really into, I think, my later years in middle school, early high school, that's when the competitive drive really kind of started to kick in for me. And
Right.
we go out, and I'd want to catch the biggest. We were multi-species anglers, but whatever we could catch, and we would catch and eat for the most part, depending on the fish. But I'd always my goal was to get the biggest walleye, the first walleye. Like that was kind of the echelon for us because it was one of the best tasting fish.
Oh yeah,
And
I enjoy eating
oh
some good walleye. That's so.
yeah, and always competing with my brother, of course, and then sometimes with my dad. And I just really started to fall in love with it. And as we got older, and I moved to Nashville, and we can talk about that transition. But I would still go back up to Minnesota for at least like 1 week vacation over the summertime, and we'd go up north to like Lake Vermilion, and I just wanted to fish like nonstop while we were up there because that was, really the only time I'd have the opportunity to do it throughout the year. So
Right.
until I realized, hey, there's all these Great Lakes right around Nashville, why don't I take advantage of that? And then
Yeah.
that kind of changed my trajectory from there. But yeah.
So, have you? Speaking of walleye, though, have you ever gone to Rock Island to catch walleye?
I have not gone to Rock Island to catch walleye.
Yeah,
Where exactly? I've heard of it. Where
it's
exactly is that?
it is by Fall Creek Falls. It's in McMinnville,
Okay,
and
okay.
so um, and I can remember as a kid that my dad and I, we would go a couple times a year and to Rock Island to catch walleye, and that's some of the best memories that I've had. I mean, because you can go, you can catch them. They've got like it's almost like a dam type deal that has a little river, and then it opens up into a lake area.
Mhm.
Which like with the walleye, that they'll transition up into the current, and then at the heat of the summer and stuff like that, they'll move back down into the lake area. But they have some pretty good size I mean, for me, I haven't gone up north to catch walleye, so I don't know. but
I'm sure they're good size. Yeah, I did catch my first Tennessee walleye. That was a big kind of bucket list goal for me. But we went down to Lake Normandy, which
oh,
is
okay,
kind of down there by Tim's Ford,
yeah,
and
that's close to
uh,
us.
yeah, we took a guide out. His name's Pete Hatchett, and he put me on my very first Tennessee walleye. And then it was really fun. The next year, I took a little mini vacation, brought my own boat, and Dana and I went out walleye fishing there on Normandy. And Dana caught a huge one that we actually have mounted in the houseboat now. So that's
What
super
what's
That
your,
is
fun.
awesome.
what's your favorite bait or technique for targeting walleye?
Just a crawler harness, with some little flashy things. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the Lindy rig,
Heard of
the
it?
Yeah,
Allender
Outlander.
family.
Yeah.
Yep, invented the Lindy rig, and so it's kind of like that. Pete actually, that guide that we went out with, he hand makes
Ah,
a
cool.
bunch of those, and so I'll buy some from Pete. I still have some from way back then. So
Yeah. Tyler Thornberry, which he's here local to us, he says was at Rock Island last weekend and caught almost 50 pounds of walleye.
Oh wow.
So
Gonna have to go check that out now that I
yeah,
know about it.
yeah. So and Eric Evans says that said you guys really need to give her a hard time about being a Vikings fan. So I can't talk. I don't really follow the NFL that much.
Well,
So if
I
I
don't
got to
need
pick,
any more punishment.
well, I tell you what, and this is coming from a true diehard Buck fan. This goes to show how much I really love Angie Scott and really appreciate her because I'm a Bucks fan and we hate Vikings.
yeah. So,
Nah,
but
just kidding.
Angie, I want to talk to you also about like what can we do to be able to kind of help promote to women to be able to get into fishing. Not I'm not the fact that they have to go and do tournament trails or anything like that, but how could we help to be able to get more women into fishing?
I think, a big thing is just doing what we're doing tonight, like, featuring female anglers on your show to put it out there that so, other ladies and young girls can see like, oh, she's out there doing it, I can do it too.
Yeah,
I think the more that we promote that and whether it's through my podcast, which that's kind of the main thesis around why I started the show, is just for that purpose to try to inspire more ladies to get out there, just to showcase other ladies that are doing it, and to the whole motto of if she can do it, I can do it too type of
yeah,
thing. I think the biggest struggle, and really anybody, especially in tournament fishing, struggles with this, especially now more than ever probably, is just, we're not, it's hard to get the support from companies, whether it be in the fishing industry or non-endemic companies, to
right.
sponsor anglers to be able to afford to do it
That's
in the
yeah,
first place. And the more that we can kind of, and the LBA is doing everything they can to try to grow the sport and get more sponsors on board. But I guess it takes money to make money,
it
Yeah.
does.
and
It does.
it's just a struggle. So hopefully that starts to come around. I mean, I'm sure you guys have been seeing the whole Bassmaster
Yeah,
HER thing that they've been doing. So, things like that are starting to pop up, and hopefully that's going to help like move the needle to
Yeah.
get people to throw a little bit of more backing
Yeah.
behind the female
Yeah.
anglers.
right.
Now, as a kid growing up, Angie, and I know your dad was probably one of your biggest inspirations, being that you started fishing with him, but really being interested in the sport as a child. Um, and woman anglers wasn't talked about, a little bit back then like it is today and as big as it's becoming. There was a few high profile women, professional anglers, Marianne Barton and several others. There was a women's bass tour back in the
Hmm.
80s that Marianne was involved in, but uh, other than your father, did you have any buddy in the sport growing up that you kind of looked after and wanted to follow your career after? And it doesn't have to be a woman; it could be a man as well. But who
Hmm.
did you look up to as a child, or was it just your father?
Yeah, it's pretty much just my dad. Like I don't think I realized as a kid that there was such a thing as professional anglers. We would have television shows on Saturday mornings, and it was usually like the Lindners. So I would say if I had to pick somebody, it would probably be Al Lindner.
Yeah,
And as I moved to Tennessee and then got my first boat and realized that like, hey, there's fishing and I'm really passionate about it here right around Nashville, and I joined the Team Nashville Bassmasters local team tournament trail. And that's when I started kind of opening my eyes to the broader world and opportunities out there for people who are passionate about fishing. And
Right.
it's kind of fun. I started the podcast and went back up to Minnesota for this thing the Lindners used to put on called the Fishing Career Workshop, and got to meet Al, and have since. He called me one day when I was in a transition period, trying to decide if I leave the music industry and just kind of try to put everything I got into the podcast, and gave me some really good advice. And it's just been kind of cool. I feel like, thinking back, watching him on TV as a kid, and then now kind of being a part of the industry
Yeah.
is pretty cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
that is. And because you originally moved to Nashville to go to school for music, wasn't it? And so,
Yep. So when I graduated high school, I wasn't 100% sure what direction I wanted to go. I really love the outdoors. And I almost thought about going into like Department of Natural Resources type career, but I also really was passionate about music and the music business. I just always was more interested in the business side of the music industry more so than sometimes the performers themselves.
right.
Like I'd rather know who the president of MCA Records is, and interested in how he got that job and that sort of thing. And I ultimately ended up going that route, and was going to the University of Minnesota thinking I'll just get a business degree and then try to get my foot in the door at some music industry related, company. And I was watching back then it was called the Nashville Network, TNN, which they used to have a lot of fishing
Just watch it
programming
every
on
day.
back in the day. But the Oak Ridge Boys were being interviewed on a show called Primetime Country, and their manager was on, and he was talking about that he had just started a music business program at Oklahoma City University. And I was like, wait a second, there's such thing as a music business program that you can go to. So I started researching it. I found a couple schools in Nashville area, and I ended up going with the state school because it was going to be a lot cheaper than the private school.
Right.
Because my dad was basically like, look, if you're gonna go out of state, and this is what you want to do, you got to figure out how to pay for it. And so I'm like, definitely going to the state school. So I went to Middle Tennessee State University, which is in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, about 30 minutes south of Nashville, and or probably more like 45 with traffic now, or a good hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nashville
Traffic and
traffic's gotten
potholes.
insane, yeah. But I loved it. I think one of my first classes was like history of rock and roll, and back
Ah,
then
cool.
VH1 used to have Rock and Roll Jeopardy, and I'm like, I'm getting graded on Rock and Roll Jeopardy essentially, and made straight A's because I just loved I just soaked it all up, and ended up lucking into an internship or not an internship, a job after I graduated. I had done some internships while I was in school, but got a job at the biggest booking agency in the world called Creative Artists Agency, and spent 16 years there.
Wow, wow.
And got to meet a lot of cool people over the years, and hang out backstage at a lot of different concerts and festivals, and it was a lot of fun. I did, after that long of a time of going to, probably 3 or 4 concerts a week, you do start to get a little burned out even on something like that. So,
Right.
and I sat at a desk all day, and I for the longest time I actually had a windowless office too, and
Oh,
so I
that
remember,
drive me
I remember,
nuts.
I remember when I was able to get a flat screen TV mounted in my office on the wall in front of me. I would put Waypoint TV up, and I would just turn the volume all the way down, and it felt like I had a little window, and I could see
Yeah.
people fishing and being out on the water, and
Yeah.
yeah. So at one point, when I realized, why am I not taking advantage of these lakes around Nashville? We got Percy Priest Lake and Old Hickory Lake are the two closest. And so I started going and doing a lot of bank fishing when I could on the weekends and
Right.
stuff, and
Yeah.
got really jealous of all the people I'd see out on the water on their boats, and finally decided to take the plunge and buy my first boat, which was just a little 16-foot Quest pontoon with a 25 horse motor.
But it
But
done the
it
job.
was it done the job. It was set up for fishing, but I wrote some songs as a hobby on the side too, so I could invite some songwriter friends out, hang out on the pontoon, write some songs, do some fishing. It was
Oh,
the
nice.
perfect
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah,
Right.
Um,
that's awesome. You have two dogs that travel with you guys when you're on there. I think I just heard one in the background trying to talk to you. But Sanibel and Lakeland.
yeah.
Now, I have a question about Lakeland. Lake being in her name, is there a backstory to her name having Lake in the name, or is that just a
Oh yeah.
coincidence?
Nope. When we actually got her from a friend of mine. I don't know if you guys have heard of Jen Ripple. She has a magazine called Dun Magazine. She's more in the fly fishing world, but we became friends over the years through fishing, and she wanted her dog to just have one litter of puppies, and I was like, "Do you have any female puppies?" And we went and saw her, and we wanted the runt, and Lakeland was the runt, so she ended up, she's 55 pounds now, so that
Well,
didn't.
because the first time that I seen her, I mean, she was still a puppy when the first time I seen
Yeah.
her, and then
Y-
it wasn't no time what I seen y'all at the Classic in Knoxville, and
Yep.
she was just laying there at y'all's feet, and I was like, I told Norman I was because we happened to be standing
Standing right next
literally
to her.
like 4 feet away from each other, and I was like, hey, I said my dog would not be doing like this. And then I looked up and I was like, it's Angie. And so,
Yeah, no, so when I had to come up with a name, it was actually my boss at Freedom Boat Club. I was texting with her and I was like, I'm having a really hard time figuring out a good name for our puppy, and we hadn't brought her home yet, but I was like, we want it to be lake themed or water themed. We were really hoping she'd be a water dog, because we had a senior dog at the time, Sophie, that she was 14, and she's a golden retriever spaniel mix, but she hated the water.
uh,
She loved boat rides, but she would not get in the water. She didn't even like to get splashed. And I was like, oh, it'd be so great to get, a dog that just loves the water. And boy, did we. But my boss texted and was like, what about Lakin? And I was like, ooh, I kind of like that. And then I don't know why, just Lake Lynn popped in my head. And I'm like, I think
that's it.
that's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's
Dana
pretty cool.
agreed. And so we named her Lakeland. And yes, she is the biggest water dog I've ever known.
That's
she,
awesome. That's pretty cool.
That is funny.
we, uh, we got her into dock diving, so
I
she
seen
does that.
videos. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is awesome. Now,
Yep.
um, so right now you are in, excuse me, in Kentucky, and you're going to go out fishing Kentucky Lake tomorrow.
Yep.
And you're getting ready for a tournament here, not this weekend, but the following weekend, correct?
Correct.
So
Yep.
what
So
what tournament is that you're going to be fishing in?
yeah, so it's the two chicks in a boat, Lori and Beth. It's their team trail, and I didn't really have any intentions of doing tournaments at all this year, except for I was hoping to do the ICAST Cup, which didn't work out due to expenses and whatnot. But one of my friends from the Lady Bass Anglers Association came to visit us a few weeks ago, Marcella, and her husband Joey. We took them out on Percy Priest and went for a cruise and ate some dinner. And she was talking about this tournament coming up on Kentucky Lake, and she's like, "You should really think about fishing it, all these other ladies that we've become really good friends with are going to be fishing it. Aside from Beth and Lori, we love them to death, but another couple friends, Marcia and Jenny are coming, and maybe Terry Sindrick, and some other people that we've really become friends with. And I'm like, gosh, it's so close. It's only like 2.5 hours.
Right.
Maybe we should go ahead and bite the bullet and do one, if nothing else, just to hang out with everybody. And
Right.
so and so I with this being a team trail, I was thinking, who would I ask to be my partner? Kind of maybe even toying with maybe just fishing it myself. But Dana, she's not. She don't care to fish. She loves to drive the truck and launch the boat and all that type of thing and be tournament support. But she doesn't care to go out there and do actual tournaments. So um, one of our Freedom Boat Club, which we can talk about that a little bit more, but
Yep.
one of our members, her name's Lorraine, she's just obsessed with fishing. And I kind of learned that through, her being a member of the boat club. And I was like, I remember talking to her. We have a boat sisters group as part of that now, and we did a fishing seminar last year where I kind of went through like an intro to fishing for all the ladies, and Lorraine was there, and we kind of talked that night. And I was like, if I ever get the opportunity, I'd love to have you fish a tournament with me. And so I asked her the other day if she would do it, and she was like, it's crazy. I just bought my Kentucky fishing license, so she already has her license.
That is
And
awesome.
she's like, heck yeah, this will be her first tournament experience. So I'm excited for
Oh,
her to
that
get
is
That's
that.
cool.
awesome. And that's
Yeah.
because we've been privileged enough to be able to spend time with the two chicks in the boat. The tournament trail, we spent time with Lori and Beth, and which we love them to death. And we'll do anything we can to help them out with promoting the tournament series. But every time that we're hanging around just that group of women, just the fellowship that's going on is worth the price of admission.
Yeah.
And so, um, but I will say though, when they came to check here, what, a month ago, Norman,
Yeah.
when they came to check, they had some sticks that were in there
Yeah.
that was yanking some good ones in. So,
Yeah.
Oh
but
yeah. It's competitive for sure.
it
So
is.
uh, yeah, I'm excited just to, like I said, get to hang out with the ladies since we made the tough decision earlier this year to not do the LBA trail just because of how expensive everything is right
Right.
now. And trying to make some responsible decisions to kind of save some money. And it was a tough call for me, especially just kind of missing, like I said, the camaraderie,
Right.
just being around the ladies. So I'm excited for next week and through the weekend to get to hang out with at least some of the ladies that we've missed this year.
Right. Right. So, you've been able to like travel the country and stuff, and to be able to fish if it's from the bank or from a boat. What is like your favorite place to go and just to go and fish? Just it not have to be on a tournament trail or anything, but just to
Mm.
go out there and just fish.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I had to pick one, just for me personally, I really, really like Logan Martin down in Alabama.
Yeah.
We just the way the schedule worked out, the LBA had two classics in a row, or 2 years in a row down on Logan Martin. So, and those are 3-day tournaments. So you get to spend a little bit extra time.
Right.
And I just feel like that lake, and I haven't really, other than Gunnersville, had the opportunity to fish some of the other Alabama lakes. So they might be very similar, but I just feel like Logan Martin really plays to my strengths as an angler, the way that it fishes,
Right.
and just really, really enjoy going there. And
Yeah.
it's not too far from Nashville either. So,
Right.
No.
And what's your least favorite that might have your number when you go there?
uh, pro- Probably a toss up between Old Hickory and Gunnersville.
Right.
Uh,
Old Hickory Cullen's old stomping ground.
I love Old Hickory. I tell people all the time, if you can't go and catch 45, 50 bass in a day on Old Hickory, something's wrong. And people's like, I don't know how you do it. And so I
Well,
went and filmed.
a lot of people didn't grow up fishing that lake every day as a child neither.
Well, I did live within walking distance to from Cedar Creek, so
Oh, nice.
I so I was out there quite a bit, but I,
I'll side with Angie. I fished one tournament on it, and the 5 days I was there, 3 days of practice, and the 2 days of the tournament, it kicked my butt too. So, so,
all I gotta
so I'm
say
right there with you,
is
Angie.
anything purple on Old Hickory
Yeah.
is the color, and so
Well, I think my problem, and I need to get back out there. But my problem is I think I've been going the wrong direction. I'm going down to Drake's Creek, and people say that that's pretty well like overfished at
oh,
this
it is
point. So
hammered, yeah. And so
yeah.
I I usually will try to go up more towards oh shoot, what's it called? The where the water spillway and stuff is, to where up towards Lebanon and stuff, to where it's
Yeah.
got
Mhm.
that warm water. Um,
Yeah. There's the steam plant.
Steam plant, yeah,
Uh,
that's
yeah,
what I'm
I've
talking about.
never been up that far, so I think that's my problem.
Yeah, yeah. And so, but I mean, if you're gonna stay south, I mean, everybody, I try to stay out of Drake's Creek because that's first place everybody goes to, and which it has
Yep.
fish, but there's um there's a slough that's just, it's like if you're coming out of Drake's Creek, it's downriver and across the river where there's I think it's called, my grandparents used to live in the next neighborhood, Brandywine, and
Okay, yeah.
so Brandywine butts up to it, and it has like they've kind of built like a little peninsula out on it to kind of keep the waves from going. And they have a bunch, the dock actually 2 years ago when y'all got like a bad winter and it froze everything. And then it got, the
Mhm.
dock actually had like so much ice on it that it sunk the dock.
Mm.
And, but that water goes from like 50 foot up to like 25 foot. And so, and then there's a ledge about halfway into it that I usually, if I'm going to stay down there, I usually go in that little canal type deal right there.
Okay.
And so,
Very
but,
cool.
and I know on Percy Priest, I enjoy fishing Percy Priest. We usually go out, usually because when I go, I'll go with my cousin, and he lives just like 4 minutes away from Four Corners, and so
Okay.
we'll go out of Four Corners, and he got me throwing Tequila Sunrise on anything Tequila Sunrise
Hmm.
and on Percy Priest, and so
I'll have to try that.
yeah,
Very cool.
so
Another lake I really like is Nickajack. I love
Ooh,
we
love
need to.
Nickajack.
now you're
What?
talking our language.
Nah, I was about to say that, and we don't talk too terribly much about Nickajack because it's kind of a hidden gem in between Chickamauga. If you don't know where it's in between Chickamauga and Gunnersville. People want to go and catch big bass, and they're like, "Well, I'm going to Chickamauga or I'm going to Gunnersville." But
Mhm.
I will say this: I had a buddy of mine just catch 2 sevens off of it, and he's had clients that's been catching 5 to 6 pounders off on
Nice.
Nickajack.
Yeah.
And I do know that there's been quite a few tens caught off of.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a hidden gem.
And what people don't realize about nickerjack is you could catch really good numbers of largemouth. You catch really good numbers of smallmouth and spots, but you could catch the same all three types of bass in the same area. Where if you go to like
Mm.
Chickamauga, you catch largemouth. That's about all you're going to catch is largemouth in certain areas, or smallmouth if you happen to catch smallmouth, which Nickajack's known for its smallmouth versus Chickamauga is known for its largemouth. But that's a really cool thing about Nickajack is you catch large, small, and spots all in the same area on Nickajack, and you catch numbers and lots of them too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I did a Team Nashville Bassmasters tournament there as a boater, and it was just a blast. We caught so many fish.
Yeah.
It
did
was awesome.
I imagine y'all probably went out of Marion County, right there off of 24.
I think we went out. I think we went right out of Shell Mound,
Oh,
I
okay.
believe.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I also want to talk to you, which we talked prior to, about you fishing southern Florida and towards the Everglades, and you brought up something about the Keys that I want to get into. So,
Yeah.
can
So
you tell us about your fishing the Keys experience?
yeah. So I did. Well, it was in the Everglades. So not the Keys that you think of, like Key
Right
West
there.
and
Right.
whatnot, but and I did a whole podcast episode about this after it happened, but I'll keep it short. So, my friend that I mentioned earlier, Jen Ripple, who runs Dunn Magazine, herself and Heather Hodson from United Women on the Fly got together and put together this trip they called the Redfish Roadie Road Trip, where it was all fly anglers except for me. I was the only conventional angler, but they brought me along to help with their social media while we were on the trip. And we started in Homosassa, Florida, on the Crystal River, like Homosassa River. Did a fly casting event there, took some guides out, did some fly fishing. Of course, I'm throwing my conventional gear, but and then we kind of started working our way down, stopped at Marco Island, and one of the days we took a couple guides out down in the Everglades. And myself and this other lady angler who's actually from Alaska that came along on
Oh,
the trip, the two of us got paired up with Captain John Hand, and he has an awesome setup. His house is right on the canal, keeps his boat, on a lift right there. Had a really nice shop with all his fly and fishing gear. And anyway, we went to his house, got on the boat, went out, fished all morning, and his wife had packed us some lunches. And he said, I figured for lunch we would go ahead and go over to Jewel Key, which has a porta-john, so if we had to use the bathroom, and then we could eat our lunch and then go back out and do some more fishing. So we get to Jewel Key. It's a pretty windy day, and he beached the boat on the side. The wind was blowing against the key, and we were on the side without the wind, whatever the technical term for that is. And he beached his boat, put his power poles down. We all got off the boat to walk up to this porta potty. He was going to check it for us and make sure there weren't any like snakes or raccoons or anything in it. And I
That'd been
turn
a
around and
surprise.
yeah, I turn around and I look back at his boat, and the nose of it's starting to drift off the shore.
Oh,
And I was like, "Oh, I think your boat is starting to drift away." And he was like, "Oh, okay." He just kind of casually walked back down there. Well, one big old gust of wind came up and totally blew his boat completely off. And so next thing I know, he's in the water. Thankfully, he kept his PFD on, which he had one of those inflatables. And so it goes off, and he's swimming after his boat. And every time he'd get close, another gust would come up and push it out of reach. And before I know it, he's like a good ways out there. And he finally gives up and turns around and starts trying to swim against the wind back to the island. And I there was like all this going through my head because me and Katie Peterbaugh was the other angler with me, and we had nothing, like everything we left on the boat. So even we took our life jackets off, like we didn't have anything on us, no cell phones, nothing. And I'm like, this guy isn't gonna make it back. Like he's an older gentleman, and he's having to try to fight the current and the wind and whatnot.
Is this the
And
Everglades you're in now? Is this the
yeah,
Everglades? Oh,
yep, the Everglades. And so finally he gets back to shore, totally winded, like can't even get a word out. And I'm like, is this guy, is he having a heart attack? Is he gonna make it? I have no doubt if he did not have his life jacket on, hopefully he wouldn't have attempted to swim
Right.
after the boat if he didn't have it on. But he had the cell service in the Everglades is terrible unless you have Verizon, and it's still pretty
It's still
bad.
horrible. I'll just let you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. But he had a waterproof cell phone in his pocket, and he did have an EPIRB on his vest too, if we had to use it. But he was able to get one little bar and called his neighbor who happened to be home. He said, "This guy's never home. It's a miracle that he's home." And so his neighbor hopped on his boat, came out and got us. The power poles ended up catching on some rocks or coral or something out there, and so we could still see his boat. And at that point, it wasn't probably going to be moving because it was hung up on the coral or whatever it was. And so we hopped on his neighbor's boat. He took us out there. We got back on his boat, ate our lunches, and then fished the rest of the afternoon. But
What
that's
a day.
that's
Now,
yeah.
I got, I've been to the Everglades and fished a couple times. And last time I went, Angie, I had a peacock on that got destroyed by a gator.
Oh wow.
And so the other guy that's on the podcast with us started giving me a hard time, and Neil Starks was giving me a hard
you got
time.
to learn how to steer this peacock around
And
them gators.
so but I told him, I says, where I'm from, we don't have anything that's going to go after the fish that we catch. And so,
Right.
but what is it? How was like your first experience of like? Because I know I was in shock and awe of just seeing how massive like the gators and having gators right there next to you. Uh, was it one of those? Because I was just, I was taking pictures, I was doing videos and stuff. Were you in the same boat? Because I mean, that's not anything that we see on a daily
Mm,
and stuff.
no,
So
for sure. Yeah, no, it was. I remember my first experience, really, where I saw a lot of gators was on that Redfish Roadie road trip after our stop in the Everglades. The ladies wanted to. We were cutting across Florida at that point, and then making our way up to Stewart, Florida, for the last Florida stop of the trip. And the ladies wanted to go through Alligator Alley and pull off the side of the road and fish some of, stand on the guardrails and fish some of those areas. And so we did that, and that was crazy. I mean, you'd look off to your right, and there's a big old gator sitting in the grass, or there's, one in the water, and we had a couple, go after our baits. So yeah, I was in, kind of uh, I don't know, awe, I guess you can
yeah.
say. Yeah. And, since then I've been spending quite a bit of time down in Florida, so I'm kind of getting a little bit more used to them, but, you always got to keep your head on a swivel, that's for sure. And
Yeah.
especially if we have our dogs with us, we're always, really super cautious.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I know I took this past winter, Beth and Lori came down to visit
Yeah.
and took them out on New Year's Day so we could go get our first bass of the year on New Year's Day. So Captain Debbie gave us a few pointers on where we might could go to have some success. And I remember Beth and Lori being pretty in awe about the gators. We saw one on one of the canals we were fishing, and they were like, "I'm not going anywhere near
That's
that."
close enough.
We, we, we,
Yeah.
had, we had one stalking us pretty much all day and actually tried to come in the boat a couple of times when we were bringing
Uh,
fish in. And Colin had said, "You do know if that gator comes in the boat, I'm going out the other side." And I'm thinking to myself, I'd take my chances with the one gator in the boat because two of his buddy buddies you probably haven't seen yet. That's right below them pads that we're fishing.
And
Right.
also, what Norman don't realize is I've got a little bit of weight behind me that it ain't gonna take no time. He's going to be bait, just to let you know. So,
Well,
go
when
ahead.
I was just gonna say when I caught my first my PB peacock bass, which you used in the artwork for
Right.
this, was with Captain Debbie down in the Everglades, and I remember there was a moment where I got my hook caught on a tree that was just below the surface, and my instincts to reach down and
Just
get the
yeah.
hook off, and Debbie's like, "Don't do
Oh.
that. There could
No.
be a gator down there."
Yeah.
So we used the rod tip and got it, but I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that."
Yeah. We
So,
had friends of ours come up, and Norman actually got to be in the boat with them, and they fished that Bill Dance tournament trail that he has going around, and it was on Chickamauga. And so
Hmm.
when I was talking to Jerry, and he was saying something that he brought his grandson up, and his grandson actually won for the juniors, won it as a 12-year
yeah.
old, got the big bass, and and so when he was talking about how like uh, he said, "No, Norman didn't have any towels in the boat and stuff like that." And I says, "Well,
That's why
just
you have
tell
your
Norman
pants. That's
to
what you
put
have your
his
pants
hand in the
for.
water and just rinse it off." And he says, "You can do that here." And I said, "Yeah." So,
Yeah, that's funny.
and actually,
So
he's actually just came on. He says, "I'm in here." So, but I want to talk a little bit because I still got. I mean, I've got a list of things that I want to talk to you, but I don't want to keep you too long. What is exactly like the Freedom Boat Club?
yeah, so I was fortunate to come across them back in 2020 in Nashville at the Nashville Boat Show. I was actually there doing a live podcast for the Woman Angler and Adventure with some of the local bass anglers. So Terry Sindrick, I think I mentioned her. Deanna Laverne's another one that fished the LBA that lives in the Nashville area. Just a handful of ladies came out and we did a live podcast. And while I was there, I was talking to one of the ladies I know that works for the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, the TWRA. And she was like, "You should go talk to Freedom Boat Club. I had my captain's license at the time, and she said they're looking for licensed captains to do their new member orientations." And I was like, "Oh, well, that sounds cool. It sounds like something I could do." This was after my transition out of the music industry, where I was just working on my podcast. And I was like, well, that would be a great thing for me to do and bring in some income. And so I went
Right,
and talked to them, and they really liked what I was doing with the podcast as well, and kind of turned into a much bigger thing than I would have ever anticipated. The owner at the time, he was able to get me hooked up with Key West boats, where I ran a 230 Bay Reef for a couple seasons with the LBA. It's kind of unconventional, but hey, it was a boat, like you
right,
said about the pontoon. It did the job. But anyway, yeah, I started doing their new member orientations, and so learned a lot more about Freedom Boat Club and what it's all about. But essentially, they invented the whole boat club concept back in 1989 down in the Sarasota, Florida area. So the concept is, we buy the boats, we maintain the boats, clean them, do all the things that you hate doing as a boat owner. Members join the club and they make reservations or even have spur of the moment day of access and just show up, take the boats out, enjoy their time on the water, bring it back, and then we take care of everything else. So, don't have to deal with the storage and the insurance and all the other things that you got to deal with
nice. Yeah.
owning a boat. So, they've now grown to over 400 locations worldwide.
Wow,
So you
I
can
didn't know
even
they
go
were that
to
big.
yeah, you can even go to Europe, Australia, Puerto Rico. There's all kinds of
Really?
locations,
Wow.
not just here in the United States, members get access to. And we have 6 in Middle Tennessee and 5 over in East Tennessee. And we're hoping Chattanooga will be coming soon. That's something we're working really hard on right now.
Wow, that's awesome.
Uh, and so, yeah, so it's been great. So I started off just as the training captain. So when everybody joins, safety is a number one priority for us. So everybody goes through a training. The initial training is an online course that I put together. It used to be all in person, but right when I joined is right when COVID started. And so I was doing the classroom portion over Zoom. And after I did about 20 in a row, I was like, why don't I just record this and make it an online course so I don't have
Right.
to repeat myself over and over again. So that's been a big hit for our members because they can just do it on their own. And then we have them come out and they do a 2 hour on the water one-on-one session with one of our licensed captains. I've since transitioned over to more of the membership executive role. So I talk to people who are interested in joining the club and just kind of educate them on how it all works. And if they decide they want to join, I get them set up. Sometimes I still do some trainings, but that pretty much keeps me full time busy doing that. And then last year we started the Freedom Boat Sisters. So we're not just a boat club, but we're a social club too. So we do like member social events. But we started the Boat Sisters last year just for our female members to get together and kind of build confidence. And we do some educational nights with them, and
That's
then we also
awesome.
just have some fun hang out. The other night we did a sunset cruise out of Cedar Creek, but it was raining, and so we decided just to hang out at the restaurant, and that was still a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Next month we're doing yacht rock bingo, so I'm really looking forward to
That
that.
sounds fun. That does sound fun.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
but kind of veering off of fishing for a second, I
Mhm.
want to talk about you and some cornhole. So how did you get into cornhole?
Yeah, so just this past winter, we've been staying down in Fort Myers, and we have a RV park that we've fallen in love with down there called Blue Way RV Village, and they do a lot of events. I love to play Texas Hold'em, so we have Texas Hold'em nights on Monday nights, and then sometimes we'll do pop-up games throughout the week. It's just that competitive
Right.
spirit I've got, you know. So cornhole, they were doing cornhole tournaments every Sunday. And I've thrown bags just for fun
Throw it,
here and
right.
there, but I've never been very good at it. Dana is very good at it, and so I was like, well, I want to try to get better and learn. So I started this past winter. I started playing in the tournaments, and I was terrible. And I feel really bad because it's kind of like a blind draw, and so you're playing doubles. So I would get paired up with another player, and one week I got paired up with like the best player we have, and I felt so bad for him. I'm like, yeah, we're probably gonna lose. But he actually lives here in not too far from me in Nashville. But they stay down there in the winter as well. But anyways, I got better as time went on, and I started practicing more. And once we got back to Nashville, I was like, I'm really gonna practice really hard. So when we get back down there next season, I'm gonna be the best player at the RV park. And so I have a setup for my office now with Freedom Boat Club where they're leasing out a used boat showroom from the Nashville Boating Center, and I have the space where my desk is set up to put a cornhole board out there. So when I'm making calls throughout the day, I just stand up there and I throw bags, and I'm just trying to get better. And I don't know, we'll see where it goes. I just really enjoy it. I've started watching the tournaments on ESPN, and uh, it's I guess a blossoming new passion of mine.
Yeah, I don't go to a lot of pro sports. I rather watch them on TV. But quite a few years ago, me and the wife had an opportunity to go to a Bucks game. So she went out and got a cornhole game because we are going to tailgate, and
Oh
that's
yeah,
one of the big things they do at tailgating is cornhole, of course. But
yep.
shortly after that, we enjoyed playing it, and we still have it to this day. We'll put it up in the backyard when we have friends over, but shortly after that Bucks game, I was channel surfing through some of this because I watched a lot of sports on TV. Channel surfing through some of the sports networks, and I seen cornhole on TV, and I'm like,
Yeah,
I had no clue that they had a professional cornhole league, and I like
it's getting crazy.
that is pretty cool. Cornhole,
It's like it's like fishing now.
yeah,
There's actually colleges that will give
yeah.
scholarships for cornhole.
Oh
Really?
wow,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
Man,
So
that
it's
might be
definitely
something that I could qualify to do.
it's
So,
the American Cornhole League. They say it's a sport anyone can play, anyone can win. So
yeah,
there's a guy that they show. I can't remember if he had an accident or that he was born that way, but he's kind of like Clay Dyer.
Dyer.
Is
Fire,
that
Yeah,
yeah?
yeah.
He doesn't have fully formed arms and legs,
yeah, and
and
he
he
throws like
is a
this, doesn't
pro.
he?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So pretty crazy. But
Yes.
Norm, I was gonna tell you real quick. Was it 3 years ago now? I guess it was. We were down in Florida, and one of my fishing friends who I met through the podcast ended up inviting us out on Captain's boat, and they were going to be going out to watch the Bucks Super Bowl parade downtown
Oh
Tampa.
man.
And so we went out with them, and that was a blast. And actually, Freedom Boat Club was the media boat, one of their pontoons, and they had the camera that caught Brady throwing the
The
trophy.
Oh,
trophy. That would have been an
Yeah.
expensive
I, I
anchor.
I am so jealous right now of you guys.
So, if Angie had to go, let's just say to Percy Pre, since I know that's right there where you're at, and you had to just go catch a fish right now, what technique and what lures and stuff are you using?
Always gonna be a Cinco.
Can't go wrong
Probably
with that.
green pumpkin, though. I guess I need to try the color that you mentioned.
Yeah, that
Um,
tequila sunrise.
yeah, but yeah, and I'm gonna be tasked with that this weekend. Actually, my nephew, he's I've never taken him out fishing, and he's like big into fishing now. He's been doing some tournaments on
Awesome.
the high school level, and he I'm taking him out on Sunday, and so I've got to figure out. But yeah, we'll probably definitely have a Senko tied on now, whether it be wacky rigged or Texas rigged. I always used to throw Texas rigged Senko until I started seeing some of these co-anglers on the LBAA fishing the back of the boat behind me, killing them on wacky rigs, and I'm like, dang,
I need to
need to
learn
give this a
that.
try. Yeah, and I ended up catching my personal best so far in the tournaments, which is nothing to really get too excited about, but it was like a 5.34 pounder on
Nice.
Ray Hubbard, throwing a wacky rig Senko, and I'm like, okay, I like this.
That is awesome. Now, is there a lake or river system or something like that that you would like to go and fish?
Let's see. I've heard a lot about Smith Lake down in Alabama, and since I
Yeah.
love those Alabama lakes, except my love hate relationship with Gunnersville. Um, but other than that, I mean, I hear about Salto down in Mexico.
Mexico.
Oh
Yeah.
wow,
Uh
yeah.
huh. That would be a pretty
If you don't catch a double digit there, you're doing something wrong.
that would be a pretty cool experience, I
Yeah,
think. And
yeah.
then
Yeah.
I've been wanting to get back up to Lake Vermilion in Minnesota and do some walleye fishing for old time's sake. Almost thought about doing it this summer, but again, the whole expenses thing.
Yeah.
But hopefully things get back to normal at some point here, and we'll be able
Yeah.
to do some fun trips like that.
That is awesome. And so I hope that you go out there tomorrow and you can get on some fish and then be able to crush them here this next weekend. And
Yeah, we'll see.
and so uh, so I'm going to be keeping an eye on the two chicks in the boat on Facebook and stuff, trying to see what how everything went down. Uh, so, but is there? How can people, like, if they're wanting to follow you and see like what you're doing and stuff? How can people do that?
And also, how could people tune into your podcast as well?
Yeah, so the podcast, The Woman Angler and Adventure, you can find it on all the major podcast platforms. The main host for the show now is actually Spotify, but we're still on Apple Podcasts and all the different platforms.
Right.
So just search for it there. The website's thewomanangler.com. And social media wise, the two main places I like to post are on Instagram at The Woman Angler, and then just search Angie Scott on Facebook. Most all of my posts on my own personal page or feed or whatever you call it are public, so you can follow all the adventures there, including what Lakeland, the duck diving boat dog, is up to, and all the other things.
And then also seeing trying to load a truck bed camper with the water almost in it.
Yes, that was fun.
Yeah. So, but also with the podcast, guys, we do want y'all. It is very important that, like, let's say you're watching it on or listening to it on Spotify, Apple, or whatever. Make sure you hit that like button and stuff, because it really does help trying to push out the podcast. Um, and if you
Yeah, and
can leave a 5-star review, I think because Spotify, you can leave a review, but you can't leave a comment. You can leave the 5-star review, but you just can't use, or you cannot leave a comment. I know Apple, you can leave a comment and leave the 5-star review. If you're going to do anything less than a 5-star, just don't do it. So,
Thank
but
you.
again, we we do want to be able to try to push, because right now we've got 1,200 people watching. So if half of y'all just go and just start listening, then I'm sure Angie would appreciate it. So
Absolutely. Well, thank you
so
guys so much for having me on. This has been a lot of fun.
yes, it has. And
Yep.
before you go, we have one question that we ask everybody that comes on. And Norman, take it away, brother.
Yep, Angie, we really appreciate you coming on tonight and spending some time talking some fishing with us. Make sure you follow Angie on all her social platforms and check out her podcast, Woman Angler Adventure Podcast. And we will put links to her social platforms in the description of this episode as
Yeah.
well. But Angie, if you were to have one person that you could fish with for the day, that and now this person could be passed away or still with us, who would that person be, and why would you want to fish with them for the day?
Gosh, I'd still love to get out there and fish a day with Gerald Swindle. Uh, got to ride along with him at the classic, not this past time in Knoxville, but the time before, and we just had a great day. We bonded. I was still working in the music business at the time, and he's just a huge music fan. So he turned me on to some stuff that I didn't even know about music wise. And so we just had a great day. Of course, I wasn't fishing. I was just sitting there watching him fish. But I would love to have a day if he comes up to Percy Priest or we go down to Gunnersville. I think that would be awesome.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And it would not be a dull moment on that
No,
Not with Gerald.
absolutely.
So, but Angie, thank you again for coming on. We deeply appreciate it.
Yeah.
And guys, we will put the links and stuff in the description, and so you can go and start following Angie and the podcast. But Fat Boy is hungry,
Skinny boy's hungry
and
too. I smell something upstairs cooking. The
so
wife's cooking something good.
yeah, so we're gonna get off here, and I hope y'all have a blessed day, and we're gonna see you out on the water, guys.
Live the passion.